to 97.6% of the people in American penitentiaries are there because they pled guilty, not because they got found guilty. 85 to 87% of them confessed. And one of the things that always used to just make me so angry is to watch the video of a confession and match that video with the person that was sitting in my courtroom trying to portray like he's an OG. And during a recess, he'd be talking to his homies over the barricade. Yeah, man, I'm hanging, man. They lied, man, about this whole thing. And then you're looking at the video, and this fool has got snot running down his nose. He's crying, "I'm on my mama. Y'all give up mama." And bawling out and trying to rat out every one of his homeboys.
Yeah, you find out how tough you are when, you put in handcuffs and shackles and threatened with some time in prison. You find out how tough you really are.
Yeah, well, what's so interesting is most of the time they wouldn't even have a case against the fool if he had shut his mouth. He just flat punked out.
Yeah.
But you see, they tell mama and their homies that they got set up and everything else. Or if you represent them, it's like, look, man, what do you mean they picked on you? It's 4 a.m. in the morning and you and 3 of your homeboys riding deep, smoking weed, man, and hitting that glass dick out on the streets in a car with the registration 3 months out, one headlight gone, and you got your music turned up so you can share it with somebody 2 blocks away. Hell yes, they gonna bust you.
Right.
But I mean, then there is wrong, and one of the things that is most wrong, you touched on, dealt with these false sexual allegations. Now, you and I were just talking, and
yes,
I mentioned my experience in Hollywood. And 22 years ago, when I started this show, I hadn't had it for 2 months. There was this big party they had at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Studio was involved in it. And I was a bachelor, and all of these movie star-looking women were there, and, it was nice, and I was dancing with a lot of them. And then finally, I started talking to one lady there, and we wound up dating for a few months. But we were sitting at the table, and she got up to go to the ladies' room. And when she came back, she said, "Do you know that guy over there?" I said, "Yeah, him in the gray suit." Said, "Yeah." Said, "He walked up to me outside of the ladies' room, offered me $2,000 in cash if I'd sign a statement saying that you tried to molest me." I said, "Damn." So we went around and found as many of the girls, the ladies that I had danced with, and we got statements from them to the same effect. Now, we stopped this because we set up a thing filing various affidavits and got them sealed and left with human resources that we were creating a fictional woman. So lo and behold, here comes a complaint from this fictional woman. Well, when it got exposed, that ended that for a while. But they had somebody that was trying to continue this mess because he had embezzled $25, and it even included a psychopath who was a stalker that these fools sicked on me. And the person embezzled $25 million, and they never reported it to FTC, which is a felony, but they didn't want the investors to know about it. So, I mean, this went on for 20-some years, and every day I reported to tape at the studio, I had to deal with some knives out there getting ready to be plunged into your back if you weren't careful by this feminist LGBT bunch.
So, Judge Joe, for those that are just now tuning in on the line, you just mentioned 2 very significant events in your life. One, you were younger, you were a bachelor.
Well, yeah, but I was over 50 years old at the time, but I got around. See, I wasn't in my 20s or 30s.
Sure. Okay.
I knew life, which is not the case with a whole lot of people who are celebrity stars. They're too damn young when they fall into this and they get set up for life, and there's something hanging over them, and they toe the line from the threats.
Exactly. That was my point. That's what I was getting to. So you were being framed or set up, so to speak. They were trying to get women to lie on you then at the age of 50 for sexual assault.
Well, yeah, a little over 50, actually.
Sure.
But
and you beat that because you use your wisdom, your knowledge, your understanding, also address those women that you were dancing with, and they wrote statements and affidavits in support of you, and that's how you ended up beating that case. And then,
see, the other thing, too, that's why people get married so often in Hollywood. It's not safe to date because you run into these setup situations. So getting married is kind of a license to date steady. Now, I wound up quickly marrying a drop-dead gorgeous woman that had no connection with Hollywood that I knew from before. I had known some of her family members before I met her. But in any event, that sort of saw me through because, quite frankly, the woman was, like I said, gorgeous, and there were zip to zero that were going to do anything better than maybe match her, which, bird in hand's worth two in the bush. So that sort of knocked a lot of that mess out of the box, but they still keep trying to stab you in the back. It was little small petty stuff, like you make an application to get your mortgages consolidated, and they ask you, have you ever been sued? No. The answer is yes, but the studio concealed it from you and had somebody acting like they were you, or attorney general's offices calling from various states about unauthorized practice of law, and you find out that the studio has set something up with people that sell legal firms saying that I would answer your question personally and have somebody masquerading as me, and I didn't know anything about it. That kind of thing, see.
And that's part of what you went through, and they used that tactic to get you basically off the air.
Well, yeah.
Right.
See, at the time I left them after a 15-year run, I was either the number one or number two syndicated show. Judge Judy, myself, Oprah Winfrey, and Dr. Phil were all part of a special CBS syndication unit. And there was a guy named Roger King that discovered Oprah and Phil. He was managing Oprah's affairs. And he came to me. He was a stand-up guy. He came in laterally. He was an NFL football player, lineman, defensive lineman, that type of the guy, stand-up guy. And his daddy invented syndication, so he came in laterally. He wasn't into that culture. In fact, he'd have me talk to his daughters about life. So he said, look, Judge, for some reason, they're trying to keep you down. They won't even take out a billboard for you in the L.A. area, the second biggest TV market in the country, and they own all the billboards. They won't put you in any advertisement. They won't run commercials on you. And they don't even have you in LA's TV guide, for God's sake. But I was still pushing number one and number two. And they embezzled a whole lot of money from me, and they wanted me to take an IOU. Like, IOU from CBS, you go to hell. You give me my money. I had a big back-end thing, which was a very big percentage of the money coming through the front door from the first dollar. But what went on was they were embezzling it to try and turn it to other uses. That's just what they do in Hollywood. They are filthy when it comes to ethics and square dealing. So I said, I've had enough. I'm over 65, I don't have to do this. And the other thing was they kept wanting me to push this gay thing, which I refused to do. Now, gay folk have the right to do what they do. What they do in their bedrooms is their business. So I have no problem with that. But when they start doing politics through this LGBTQ mantle, and it starts impacting socioeconomic and political matters, then there is open to anybody else in the political field, and you can give pushback. Now, you have to understand, black folk used to be last hired, first fired. Nowadays, it's first to be experimented on, and by that I mean the sociological experiment of let's see if we can take the masculinity out of the black neighborhoods, and we can use that as a trial balloon to take it out of the whole country. And
Joe, you see that in our schools, in our public school systems now, where you have transgenders coming into the public school system, talking to our kindergartners and first graders and telling them that it's okay to be trans. That's not your role.
Plotted. Yes, that's plotted. That's why they use trans. That's why, by the way, they pushed Michael Jackson so hard, is because he was androgynous, and that promoted that fluid gender thing. Something just came on saying 19 seconds, whatever is.
You're fine. You're good. It says 90 seconds for the air time. We're gonna. We're good. Go ahead, Judge. Take a.
Okay, so they wanted this tranny thing and this androgynous thing pushed because it blurs the lines between the genders. Now, gender used to be synonymous with sex, but as a part of a deliberate campaign, they tried to turn gender into fluid, which is nonsense. You either got a dick or a pussy, a vagina or a penis, and that's it. And they took the trannies because children don't understand what a homosexual is because they don't know what sex is. But trannies, they understand a boy is dressed up like girls. Now, it's part of the conditioning process. Some of you may recall your mother saying, if you don't go to church on Sunday, you go nowhere else. Now, that's part of the conditioning process to get you to accept a religion, because if they waited until you were an adult, most people probably wouldn't buy into it. But then the society kind of reinforces that. Society used to reinforce manhood and womanhood, but it does not now. It is actually one of the main sources of destruction for the traditional family, for traditional manhood and womanhood. Because way back 50 years ago, these people dedicated themselves to becoming part of the control group for television, motion picture, and press. And LGBT site brags that 85 to 90% of all people involved in these media forms are, in fact, LGBTQ. Q on their site stands for questioning and queer, they say. So let's just take the queer factor. They've been queer for the rest of the world for a long time. They got locked up, burned at the stake, hung, tortured, mutilated, fired from jobs, and imprisoned. So they had a phobia of straight people. That was called heterophobia. It's been in the dictionaries for 200-some years. But if you input heterophobia into your iPhone, it's going to underline in red and not recognized as a word. But homophobia is something that's a 5 to 7-year-old, maybe 10-year-old construct. And it's part of the propaganda thing by slowly taking a word from being used occasionally to often, so people pick it up and become acclimated to it. And in the process of accepting the word, they start accepting the concept. That's part of their propagandistic plan.
Now, Judge Joe, really quick, because we're talking about this, and then we're going to take a break, then we're going to come back and start doing Q&A on the line, questions and answers. Q&A.
Yeah, Q&A.
You've got the Dwayne Wade family, right? Gabrielle Union, Dwayne Wade, their son, Zion. Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, as you know, they are pushing forth the transgender agenda.
You mean that lesbian couple?
On their Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union is pushing
that lesbian couple.
The transgender agenda on their son.
The one that played for the WNBA?
Dwayne Wade, yes.
Yeah, he played for the WNBA, right?
Correct.
The Women's National Basketball Association.
But they have
where
a
he
son.